tonight. Stone rips pound, rhythm takes hold. Welcome to the abyss, let the tale unfold.
This looks fun. So cute.
Get ready with me to recreate Susan Sarandon's Janet look from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Fun fact, I have never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm going to start off this look with a primer. I'm doing this makeup look because I thought it would be a good one so people can have it for Halloween and Rocky Horror Picture Show screenings and stuff. Definitely not because I need to wash my wig, but I don't want to, and it happens to look just like Janet's hair in this movie. Orange lipstick is color corrector. The orange blocks out the blue tone of under-eye bags and facial hair. I'm breaking out my Max Factor pan stick because it's very pink tone. Plus, Janet's makeup seems to be very 60 inspired. If I'm right, tell me in the comments. I haven't seen this movie. A light concealer and run it around my under eyes and on my eyelids. Next, we're gonna take a pink beauty blender cause she's a girl. Blend, blend, blend. You know what I should do? I should start telling you the plot of Rocky Horror Picture Show as I know it. Janet and her boyfriend slash fiance, I'm gonna call him Greg. They live in Texas,
Brad.
but they're abducted by
Brad.
Yossified Bilbo Baggins Tim Curry. Yossified Bilbo Baggins Tim Curry is an alien who also lives in the sewer and lures children down there. Alien child cannibal Tim Curry comes from the same planet as Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, which I could give you a very deep analysis on Little Shop of Horrors if you would like. So Tim Curry abducts Janet and Robert. So Tim Curry abducts Janet
Right.
and Steven, and he comes out in this pearl necklace,
Right.
really tight corset, rubber gloves, and he's like, show me them titties. Get naked and show me them titties. I'm pretty sure that is a real song from the musical. I'm contouring my nose rather severely
Sure.
because I want Susan Sarandon's very beautiful scoop. So Janet then has her very iconic line, I'm a good girl. I don't want to show you my titties. I want to play canasta, which is why people throw playing cards at the screen at Rocky Horror Picture Show screenings. Cheek contour is high, start up here, and scoop down. One of Tim Curry's henchmen, who is this dominatrix maid, she comes out with Rocky, who is the whole reason the show. He's like this gold Speedo La Maid bodybuilder, and Susan Sarandon takes one look at
This is
Rocky's
amazing.
Bullwinkle, and she's like, Mama, I'm a big girl now. Oh. With a clean, fluffy brush, diffuse your contour. Jorge, Janet's fiance, does not like Rocky and his gold lame diaper one bit. And he's like, but Janet, we're engaged. And she's like, I'm going back to their planet of Transylvania. Fill in your waterline with a NYX Jumbo Stick because we want our eyes to be very bold and poppin'. While it's out, I'm gonna go ahead and add some to my nose. Okay, I get Susan Sarandon and Sigourney Weaver confused, and so I thought Susan Sarandon was in Clue, but my mom was like, no, that was Sigourney Weaver. Turns out we were both wrong.
Yeah.
It was some other actress. She was the
Yes.
actress who played Will's father's mistress on Will and Grace, and Susan Meyer's mother on Desperate Housewives. Eye makeup with a light taupe, go in and hit your corners with a fluffy brush. Clean off your brush and buff it out. So then Tim Curry's all like,
Susan
take
Sarandon
off
is
their
like-
clothes. And they do. And Janet's in this beautiful vintage slip and a cone bra. And her boyfriend, Reginald, he is wearing these granny panties. And because Janet's a good girl, she's never seen him in his underwear. And she's like, you wear granny panties? Those gold lame panties are looking so much better than your whitey tidies. Have I gotten any of this movie
Tidy
right? I
whities.
feel like I've gotten everything right. Tim Curry isn't
Absolutely.
there at this point in the movie. He's off doing this elaborate blackmail ruse with some people in a mansion. Her fiance Mike is trying to defuse the situation of Janet not liking his granny
Brad.
panties, and he does not like that whitey tidy remark. So he's
Tidy
like, whitey tidy, lefty loosey. And she's like, I hate dad jokes, Jerry. Under your
Brad.
white liner, do a dark line of eyeshadow, then smudge it out. I'm gonna do a rounded shape on my eyelids with a brown line. It's at this point Tim Curry's back and he's all like, Rocky's only 3 days old, and Janet's all like, oh no, that's a baby. I'm not gonna wanna have sex with a baby. Bye! Hopefully that's what happens, because I'm pretty sure that's like the case, and yeah. And then Matthew Morrison is like feeling really bad about himself, so he makes all the students on Glee perform Rocky Horror, and the parents are of course outraged because this show is not appropriate for them to be performing, and the schools are like, boo, you can't do that, and Sue Sylvester's like, ha ha! Very light lip liner because Susan Sarandon's lips are very light in this movie. Do a round shape because she has a very round lip. Light coats of mascara on your top and bottom lashes. Originally, Rocky Horror Picture Show had 3 endings. One where Mrs. Peacock did it, one where Janet flies off in a spaceship with Jeff Goldblum, and my personal favorite where Janet and her fiancé Kevin fly off in a 1950s Pontiac. Is it to heaven or is it just a dream? No one knows. A light coating of pink blush very low on the cheek. I'm gonna finish off this look with a little highlighter, and then I will be right back. Wah-pa-pa. This is our final makeup look. Let me know how you think I did in the comments, and be sure and rate on a scale of 10 to 10 how you think my Rocky Horror Picture Show synopsis was. All right, my strange little onions, I love you. Have a hug, a cookie, and a juice box. Mwah.
We want to start shooting in 3 weeks, and you're like...
Amazing.
Then you're not talking about inheriting the Obama economy or what he did there. But look, Obama was the deporter in chief. He deported more people. What is specifically, Joe, my turn. What specifically is he going to do for deportation? Is he going to get the National Guard?
Billionaire investor and Shark Tank host Mark Cuban has been making the rounds in predominantly right-wing media to defend Vice President Harris and her economic policies. And earlier today, he appeared on CNBC Squawk Box, mostly to spar with a MAGA news host who is so Trump-sympathizing that during this very interview, he tried to defend Trump's actions on January 6th. But during the heated exchange, Cuban was so effective that he stunned this man into silence, and we have to talk about him. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. Mark Cuban is someone who has appeared in videos here at Pondering Politics before because he's a very good debater and he is a very effective surrogate for the Democrats and for Vice President Harris's fiscal policy. And really before Vice President Harris became the presumptive and then the official Democratic nominee, he was also a defender of President Biden's fiscal policy and record as well. So he's very good. He has a lot of credibility in the private sector, in the business sector, because he's a very successful billionaire and he's a very good debater. So he appears on CNBC Squawk Box, and he has some pretty heated exchanges with Joe Kernan, who is a MAGA news host who has also appeared in our videos before, because this guy is totally in the bag for Donald Trump. And during the course of the conversation, they cover fiscal policy and even January 6th. So we're going to play these clips and unpack it together.
But to your point, right, what is it, 75% of manufacturers have under 20 employees, right? There's like 4,000 companies that have more than 5 manufacturing companies. Donald Trump is trying to come in with a hammer and say, you're the nail. I'm going to hit you with a 200% tariff, John Deere. Kamala Harris is saying, I'm going to give you incentives to manufacture more. Which do you think is going to work better with companies? Do you want to be underneath a hammer? Because when you put a 200% tariff on John Deere and only a 10 or 20% tariff on their Chinese competitors, Their Chinese competitors are now less expensive than John Deere. And it's not so easy. We saw what happened with Carrier, right? When in 2016, they said, you know, if you move down, we're going to tax you more, 35% tariff back then. And what Carrier did, they gamed the system, right? They just fired different employees.
So again, very effective at what he's doing. Trump did recently threaten to impose a crippling tariff on John Deere. And Mark Cuban makes a really good point here, which is, isn't it interesting how Donald Trump says he was tough on China? So pretty effective message coming from Mark Cuban. Now we get into some of the spicier exchanges between Cuban and Joe Kernan, this MAGA news host whom you have seen in previous videos of mine.
So here's the difference, another difference between Kamala and Donald, right? Donald says something and everybody else tries to explain what he really meant, right? He didn't really mean all these things. This is what he's suggesting, right? He's just hyperbole. Listen to what Kamala Harris says. What she says is what she's going to do.
But then you're not going to go back and look at Trump's 4 years compared to what the last 4 years that we've had.
But what about the years before that?
We know what he did, and we know there were no hot spots around the world.
Then you're not talking about inheriting the Obama economy and what he did there. But look, Obama was the deporter-in-chief. He deported more people. What is specifically, Joe, my turn.
Yeah.
What specifically is he going to do for deportation? Is he going to get the National Guard?
I don't know how he's.
You don't think that's important?
No, I just think that when she was unable to answer the question about are you better off now than 4 years ago, I think that was illustrative.
Well, 4 years ago, literally, we were in a pandemic. It was an easy answer.
We can look at exactly what happened.
We were in a pandemic.
And we can look at what happened when she was vice president, and it's not good, the comparison.
Being the president, Joe, as you know, is different than being vice president. It's not
exactly.
So she can take credit for the
This
good
guy
things that
doesn't know
happened
his
with
hat
Biden,
from his fucking
but she
shoe.
didn't have anything to do with the bad
Donald
things.
Trump takes credit for things that didn't even exist, right? The things that didn't even happen. He forgets that we had to pay tens of billions of dollars to farmers because his tariffs backfired.
And there was no hot spots around the world. What about fucking Syria?
No, we're
what
talking
about
farmers'
the fucking
tariffs, right? We're not talking about
dust?
steel.
Oh.
Today, what did they talk about? They talked about
had
eliminating EVs
our own
because
troops
it's
getting
a
murdered.
security threat. That's smart.
They just said 1 minute.
He's
we need
negotiating
Bell,
with the
like
fucking
it's at the
Taliban.
end of the one. But
Hey everyone,
I mean, where's this
interrupting
fucking
your research with
guy's
huge
brain?
news.
Is it
What
the
the
new iPhone
fuck?
16 Pro?
To support Trump,
Yeah, but
you
if
have to
he's using a
live
boxing metaphor there, and
delusion.
he got TKO'd in the first round, so I don't know what the hell he's talking about. You don't need a bell. That was a brutal beatdown of Joe Kernan in so many ways. So a couple of things. Number one, Mark Cuban is right.
You know, all we've seen Donald Trump do is hire his relatives, right? RNC, here comes the daughter-in-law. You know, who's going to speak for him? His two sons. Want to come up with a new hey, we got a new silver coin. Here come the sons. Hey, we got blockchain. We've got DeFi. Here comes another son. You haven't seen him work with, I mean, again, the family business is now the Republican party.
more,
Either.
They own
Again,
the party.
phenomenal point. People can competence. He hires people based on personal loyalty, and I think this is something worth pointing out. I do want to return to a previous clip, though, because there was another point I was trying to make in real time, because Mark Cuban just made so many damn good points. I want to play the last part of it.
He forgets that we had to pay tens of billions of dollars to farmers because his tariffs backfired. He forgets about all the retaliatory.
the tariffs that are still on.
That's right. That's what I wanted to say. So the other point, going back to the second clip I played, Mark Cuban made the point that understand how time works. So again, I just love the fact that Mark Cuban has an answer for all of this, thus proving the superiority of Vice President Harris over Trump. Now, here's where January 6th comes up, and I think this is also pretty interesting.
And the question is, here we are talking about policy, right?
Yep.
We're having real policy
The
conversations.
underpinning is the guy
But
didn't live up to
my
his oath.
question is how much we should actually, how much do you think as CEOs who are watching this program, or just a voter, is supposed to think about these other issues?
Look,
The dumbest thing I've been hearing Republicans say here recently, and it's just like, I mean, I swear, their brains are broken. Republicans, MAGA Republicans specifically, are the dumbest creatures on the fucking planet. The most recent argument I've been hearing is, well, we've already seen 4 years of Trump's presidency. We don't know what Kamala's presidency will look like, so we'd be safer going with Trump's president. Hey, great argument for, you know what, never having switched presidents since George fucking Washington. It's so stupid. And this is why you should never vote for anyone they support either, because the people they're supporting are equally as fucking dumb. I mean, it's why the country keeps getting fucked up, is because the Democrat Party has all the intelligent people and the Republican Party has all the fucking morons.
I think that Joe would say that January 6th is not
it's
something.
been litigated. People know it happened. It's been litigated. The 48% that back him are.
They don't care.
I mean, the guy literally told his vice president, he called him,
No.
you know what he called him, right? He literally tried to get him to overturn an election. That should disqualify him. It just, for whatever reason, people don't want it.
In the heat of that moment, at that point, I think he really did believe that it had been stolen.
So?
I don't know if he believes it anymore.
So, once again, Republicans, specifically MAGA Republicans, will say the dumbest fucking things. They are incapable of saying anything intelligent. Well, you know, in that instance, he really did believe. Yeah, you know what? People believe in Bigfoot. People believe the earth is flat. Okay? Come on. Oh, so just because somebody believes something. Yeah. Well, okay. Next time somebody steals something, well, they really do believe they were entitled to the thing they were stealing, so let them have it, right? Because that's what this dumbass motherfucker is arguing. Well, as long as I say I truly believe something, then whatever I do is totally okay. I thought you were a monster, so I fucking set you on fire and threw you off a cliff. And it's okay because I truly believed it. Fucking moron.
Look, I remember going to.
But you know that in the past, there have been Democrats that have voted not to certify.
Yeah, that's fine.
Many
right,
times.
that's fine. But
Previous election.
none of them called their vice president a pussy and said, "Don't certify the election." Right? None of them have.
Right.
He's the only one to do that.
Exactly. Another false equivalency. There have Democrats who argued briefly and then ceded. He, to this day, still has not accepted defeat, still swears that it was stolen. I mean, there is no fucking equivalency. But Republicans have lost the ability to be to even pretend to be intelligent.
Yeah, so again, this part, not Mark Cuban's best performance because there's so many other things. Number one, the false equivalence, Joe Kernan. We have had Democratic vice presidents preside over their defeats. Al Gore was the vice president of the United States. Yep. He ran against George W. Bush. You could easily make the case that Bush v. Gore stole the election from Vice President Gore. But you know what? You know what Al Gore didn't do? He didn't try to sue his way into the White House. He didn't refuse to certify George W. Bush's victory. He didn't stage an insurrection.
He didn't go calling around
Al Gore,
the country
in the same
trying to get people to help him steal the election.
Conspired with President Clinton and the Democrats.
That could be a Mexican plane up there. They're getting ready to attack.
I want everyone to keep something in mind. While this dude tries delivering joke after joke,
it's important to remember that all the things that these people say, these are very powerful people already, and one of them is going to become even more powerful. Everything that they say, everything they do has ripple effects. So all these things have real consequences. It's not a game, and we are not chess pieces.
Comedian Josh Johnson hits the nail on the head. We are not the most powerful people's chess pieces.
Exactly.
As much as they desire
MAGA
us
puppets.
to be.
As someone raised by black women,
MAGA, they're puppets. They are puppets. They like being chess pieces. They like being
black women know how to hurt
They don't
feelings.
like having to use their brains. They
Only
like
a
being
black
ordered
woman
around.
like, no, go to his little rally and see. That's how confident she was in what she was saying, that she told us to go. She was like, look, I'm gonna do something I wouldn't normally do. Go ahead and go. You'll leave early, don't worry.
Fair. It was a hilarious moment, but also one rooted in fact.
A tender-hearted woman's song for half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew Poor thing, she said. Corrupt guy. He's a corrupt and really a corrupt district attorney who's allowed crime in the city to go totally unchecked. They had the other day, they had like 20 district attorneys.
What the fuck is he even saying? What the hell was this?
Because
snake?
we have seen this throughout his rallies. The crowds do leave early. This, however, clearly left a sting in his mind and affected how he felt from there till the end of the debate.
I've noticed that Trump specifically has a thing that has always kind of existed in politics, but has never existed to this degree, right? Where Trump has a filter created by his base, by the people who like him, love him, and everything, that he can say whatever he wants, but they will distill it for him for the rest of us.
Exactly, yeah. They'll twist it into something he didn't even fucking say.
And then they will be like, what he meant was...
Exactly. Exactly.
But what he meant shouldn't have been what he said.
Exactly.
He said this, and you're saying he meant something else, but he also had access to the words you just said.
Yeah, and y'all say he's a great
This
speaker.
is also spot on.
Well, if he's such a
but
great
it's
speaker,
not
why didn't
just
he
that they
say
bend
what
his words
he
to
meant?
give a stamp of approval?
They went after Richard Nixon, they went after Bill Clinton, and now the courts in several different states are finding different things about Trump. Is there anything that could happen with him indictment-wise that would say, all right, maybe this disqualifies him for president?
Not for me. I'm with him to the finish.
There you go.
All right, thank you so much.
He could stand on the front steps of the White House and commit murder, and I'm with him.
There you go.
Explain that to me. That's amazing.
Exactly.
I mean,
there you go.
Look, he's the only man we've ever had in my lifetime that stood for America as president.
How?
I was a George Herbert
How?
Walker Bush man and all
How?
that, but they don't
How
need anybody
so?
compared to Donald Trump. He
How
loves
so?
this country, and that's why I
How
love
so?
him.
It's
How
that they
so?
say stuff like this to justify their support.
And it doesn't
this
mean
man literally
anything.
said
They just
Donald
say
Trump could
words.
kill another human
They just
being on
say
the
words. They
front
just
steps
say shit.
of the
It
White
doesn't
House.
mean nothing.
And this guy
if
would
you ask
still
him,
cast
well,
a ballot for
how
him.
does he love America?
Yet
Well, he
ask
just
this
loves
man
it.
about being pro-life.
Well, how does he stand for us?
Ask
Well,
him.
he just
It would be
does.
a litany of contradictions.
Because he
This
says
is
he
exactly
loves us.
the issue with MAGA. There is no reasoning to their politics.
No.
It's just
They're operating on
this.
two
If I have to,
brain cells, two fucking
create
points.
stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do.
An insane thing for a sitting
I'm
U.S.
just gonna
senator
lie,
and the
Mr. Guy
nominee for
Liner.
VP of the Republican Party to say, which of course puts a target on the back of countless people
Curry
in
man.
not just any state, but the state he represents.
And the thing that is like so brain broken about that logic is that it creates a tidal wave of insanity until you can finally make something that you want to be true, right? Because it could ruin anybody's life. For instance, when you look at JD Vance, there is no evidence that there's no evidence that he didn't bang a couch. Do you see? Like, do you see how that's an unending thing? How it could ruin your life and never go away? How you can't even sit anymore? Because people see you next to a love seat and wonder. Do you see how insane that is? A lie that we know is a lie?
That's just well done by Johnson. It's a very taste of their own script flipping turn that many in Vance's orbit do not appreciate, but the audience certainly did.
Bruce Springsteen, we have a much bigger crowd than Bruce Springsteen.
Oh.
Yeah, much bigger crowd than Bruce Springsteen.
I'm sure he's a nice guy. How about Chris Christie? You say, I love Bruce Springsteen, and then they throw him
much
out of
bigger
the
crowd.
concert. When somebody
Much
throws
bigger
out of a
crowd.
concert, you should love it.
Yeah.
You sort of say, I don't
But
like
there's
that.
like a huddle towards the stage.
And then they throw him out of the
Towards the mic.
Let's get back to this, though. The obsession with his crowds and how one line from Madam Vice President Kamala Harris struck a nerve so hard the former president tailspinned publicly on live television.
Trump is like very good at making other people look dumb. He's very good at debating. You see what I mean? But this was the first time that he was like, what is she talking about? My crowd. And so, you know, he had a bit of a spiral. And before you know it, he was like, look, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs, they're eating cats, they're eating, and you could tell in that moment that Trump wanted to say another animal, but he couldn't think of one.
Exactly. I noticed it too. They're eating the pets of the people who live there.
Because he says pets, but pets is off rhythm. If you go back and watch, it's like they're eating the dogs, they're eating cats, they're eating...
The pets of the people who live there.
And you can see for a split second the wheels turn of, he's like trying to think of, they're eating the bird. No, we all eat birds. They're eating the pets.
It is rather interesting how Trump pivoted here after the crowds leaving early line, because it is true, this was not only talked about.
2 elementary schools in Springfield, Ohio, evacuated today. 2 college campuses there, Clark State College and Wittenberg University, shut down. Classes being held virtually because of bomb and shooting threats. Some of the threats targeting the Haitian communities at the schools and in town.
A bomb threat, particularly one that disrupts something like a school, is a very serious crime. It's felony. So whoever's responsible, knock it off. You could go to prison.
Who's responsible? Trump.
Government buildings
and
in
JD
Springfield
Vance.
have also received threats in recent days.
That's who's
the
responsible.
threats come in the wake of a disturbing sequence of falsehoods about the Haitian community in Springfield.
It further.
The thing I've noticed in both these debates is that they're not even about who did well. They're just about who did the least poorly. That's what we get stuck on. Like, it wasn't even, last debate wasn't even about Trump performing well, it was about Biden crashing out. And then this debate wasn't as much about Kamala winning as much as Trump. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cat, they're eating flamingos. They're eating the pets
of the people who live there.
No. And it was the first time in all the times that he's debated that Trump looked 78.
And this is the power of the Dems switching candidates. Previously, Joe Biden looked like the elder statesman. He looked like a man who should
inflationary roles played by the economic plans of Vice President Harris versus the much more inflationary plans of Donald Trump.
We know that his policies will be more inflationary. He's going to add something like $5.8 trillion to the deficit. Kamala only $1 1.2 trillion. And when he continues to say, well, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to have the cost of energy. No plan to do it. The tariffs, that is not good economic policy. This is going to add a 20% tariff to some goods. That's not just something that you throw around. That's something that could be devastating for the American economy.
Exactly.
And so you can rail about her, you can call her incompetent, and frankly, it's been shown as well that people do not take well to him standing up there and continually insulting her in that tone. But people are hearing what she's saying about her plans, the progress we've made, and what she's going to continue to do. And that's why his edge is being decreased every time a new survey comes out.
Okay. Yeah, pretty brutal fact checks there. A couple of things, and we're going to corroborate some of her claims with, for example, Mark Cuban and another report talking about how more increasing number of economists are embracing her economic policies compared to Donald Trump's. But a couple of things. Number one, yeah, anyone who wants to call the vice president incompetent need only look at the polls, because the polls say that more Americans think that Vice President Harris is competent and mentally fit compared to Donald Trump. So that's a losing battle. Number two, she's right in the sense, too, that Donald Trump calling the vice president incompetent and insulting her in this way is also really bad and doesn't play very well. Number three, she's right in that Donald Trump's edge on the economy is rapidly shrinking. Now, it's entirely possible that that edge will endure until the election, right? It's possible that the vice president never really closes the gap in aggregate, but she has been closing it. So again, you know, it really doesn't behoove Donald Trump and his supporters to pretend that that's not the reality. They should probably course correct. Then when it comes to the inflationary components, again, billionaire investor Mark Cuban, who has been an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, did this.
There's nothing wrong with strategic tariffs. So if somebody in China or any foreign company is subsidizing a product, let's say steel, so that that manufacturer in China is able to sell in the United States at less than cost, then it makes perfect sense to incorporate tariffs. You're seeing that with EVs, and you're seeing it with other products as well. And so for strategic tariffs, they should always be looked at as a potential tool. Where it turns into lunacy is when you do across-the-board tariffs. And so to say that we're going to tariff 10% or 20% or 60% for China or any other countries, that's just inflationary, and that's just a tax on the American people. That's a sales tax through and through.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Donald Trump is proposing, which is why so many macroeconomists, including conservative,
Someone taught him the word
otherwise
tariff,
Trump-aligned
and that's all he keeps saying
macroeconomists
anymore. Every time he gets asked anything that has anything to do with money or whatever, he starts saying tariffs. We're going to have tariffs like you wouldn't believe. So many tariffs, and the tariffs are going to fix everything. Tariff, 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 tariff. Because he's like a 2-year-old who learns a new word and just keeps repeating it over and over. Tariff, 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 tariff.
that act, and Greg Gutfeld having absolutely no rejoinder for it other than to make a comment about President Obama and a magic wand.
I mean, maybe, you know, taxpayer-funded sex changes. She puts the man in manufacturing.
What?
That's about it.
What about all the new plants that have
That
been created
doesn't
under the Biden-Harris administration
make
under the
any
CHIPS and
sense.
Science Act?
What about all the ones that are closing because of electric vehicles?
What is it, 700,000 new manufacturing jobs, even with the downward revision?
Wait a minute, didn't Obama say he didn't have a magic wand, he couldn't bring them back?
Are you actually, so you think that Trump is going to win because you're bringing up something Obama said?
Because Trump did bring them back when Obama said you couldn't.
All right, nice try, Jeff.
What?
So no, when Donald Trump left office, he'd lost hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs. He didn't bring them back, and he was actually outsourcing more jobs than he was creating domestically.
Who do you think is running the country right now? Is it Joe Biden or is it Kamala Harris? Or is it Jill Biden?
It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden.
Well, I'm going to play two
You're a
clips and ask you the
child.
question again. The first one
Piers
is
Morgan
where President Biden forgets
is
the
a
name
toddler.
of the Indian Prime
Once
Minister.
again, he's got a great big head,
at a press
but
conference.
the
they
mind
called
of a
Summit on
child
Saturday.
is
He forgets
in
he has
that
to introduce
fucking
him. Take a
melon.
look.
So I want to thank you all for being here. And now,
And this is what has happened to our world, because people have been getting promoted on either being an ass kisser or an asshole. People do not get promoted on merit, and that is why Piers Morgan is where he is. Because the things that he says and asks are not intelligent things to say or intelligent questions to ask. The things he says and asks are things that you would hear in a fucking high school hallway or a high school lunchroom.
who am I introducing next? Who's next?
Distinguished guests, the Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
I mean, completely excruciating, especially given that Modi was standing next to him and is one of the most famous and important and powerful world leaders imaginable. But the second clip is even more bizarre. It's Jill Biden apparently taking control of cabinet. Let's take a look.
Today at the top of our meeting, Jill's going to give an update on the House initiative, White House initiative to fundamentally
they're taking
change the
things out of
approach
context.
and fund how we approach and fund women's health services.
Once again,
so I'd like to turn
he's
it over
acting
to
like a
Jill
toddler.
and, for any comments she has, and it's all yours, kid.
Thank you. You know, sometimes the White House.
Yeah, because this is specifically on women's. He even said what? I mean, someone needs to beat Piers Morgan up for real. Like, for really real. Like, sometime when he smarts off to somebody in the room, they just need to stand up and just like, legitimately just beat him up. You want to keep acting like a kid? You want to keep acting like a child? Well, there you go. That's what's going to happen. You act like a bitch, boom.
Surprises you. When Joe
God,
became
he's so
president,
stupid.
I knew I wanted to keep shining a light on the issues that I'd worked on for so many years.
Exactly.
It's just very bizarre, Brian, to watch
No, it's
both
not.
of those and not conclude that Joe Biden is no longer running the country. The idea he takes that call in the middle of...
Dude, you're like a fucking 12-year-old with a 12 IQ. God damn, and look at that big fucking ugly head. This is the thing. This is why I believe in dark force corruption, because these motherfuckers, they keep getting dumber and they keep getting uglier.
...of the night and has to press a nuclear button. I'm sorry, if I was an American, I'd feel extremely concerned. His wife seems to be running cabinet, and he doesn't seem to know what day it is.
Pierce, I think that this is maybe the most disingenuous framing that I've heard from you. Having Jill talk about an initiative that she worked on, or having Joe not know the exact run of show, doesn't mean that he forgot Modi's name, and it doesn't mean that Jill is taking over cabinet meetings, and you know that. Again, this is really bad faith framing. With that said,
well, that's what you hang on, Brian. That's what you.
Hold on.
No. You're a lying piece of fucking shit. No, you hang on, you cocksucking piece of shit. No, you say fucking bullshit. You babble like a fucking moron.
Leading the country, nothing to worry about. And people like me were writing endless columns and saying stuff on air that he...
Yeah, when an absolute fucking tard, when someone who you could legitimately say is retarded is saying retarded things, then you won.
Clearly was not.
Given the fact that Jill is talking about an initiative at a cabinet meeting and talking about the fact that Joe Biden didn't know run of show at one of the thousands
Why would
of
he articulate that so loudly, so embarrassingly?
Donald Trump, in his right mind, thought that Tim Cook's name was Tim Apple and thought that Erdogan was the president of Hungary. So when are we going to do segments on that? Just because you don't know every single detail.
Exactly.
Here's the thing that
wipe the fucking
like
orange off your lips, you fucking cockholster.
I'm not.
Here's the thing. That,
no, you are. You are. Stop lying.
Every time is that Donald Trump has done the same thing, if not leagues worse, than all of the small mistakes.
And it's gotten to the point now where Piers Morgan just flat out fucking lies. He has to lie to even have a fucking show. Why do we promote these? Piers Morgan Uncensored? No, Piers Morgan dipshit. Why do we promote these people? Why does he get promoted to the place of power? You know why? It's because he sucked all the right cocks to get there. There is no other explanation. He sucked a lot of dick to get where he is because he has no fucking ability. He has no fucking character, no merit, no intelligence, no integrity. He does not qualify as a journalist, even in the loosest sense. He's a fucking, like, what, 70 years old, still acts like he's 12? And we give him a show because of that? Because he's willing to act like a 12-year-old in front of a camera, because he doesn't have the fucking self-respect or shame or self-awareness to not realize that he dunks on himself every time he opens that little pie hole in his face.
Errors that Joe Biden makes, but
I mean, look, she's even over here like, I don't even want to take a fucking piece of this. She's like, my God, if I even participate, it's going to make the right look really stupid if I agree with this fucking moron in the middle.
We never talk about those because it's just baked into the cake that Donald Trump is going to say crazy things.
Well, no, it's not that. It's not that.
And because he's graded on such a curve in both this country and international media more broadly, it just comes and goes like a fart in a hurricane when he says that the president of Hungary is Erdogan, for example.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. The point about Trump is he's 78, but has the energy of a
what? What?
The energy. This guy is so brain addled. He thinks that Nancy Pelosi was in charge of the Capitol on January 6th. He thinks that Jeb Bush got us involved in the war in the Middle East. He thinks that, he spends most of his rallies talking about
what you just said.
Hannibal Lecter. He spends most of his rallies talking about Hannibal Lecter, about magnets, about sharks. I mean, the notion that this guy is in his right mind is laughable.
That was me sparring with Piers Morgan, wherein Piers does what every mainstream media outlet does, which is to critique every single misstep of a Democrat, no matter how small, while giving Trump a free pass.
Reform bill that would make healthcare.
It's a problem.
Less expensive, Pierce. Hold on. Less expensive, Pierce, and more comprehensive.
Yeah.
He didn't pass any of that. Not only did he not pass it, he didn't try. He used all of his political capital in office not to do any of those populist things that he promised when he was running for office, but rather to just pass a tax cut for millionaires and billionaires. That's what he actually cared about. And that's what he did when he actually had the power. So it's ironic that we're talking about what Kamala Harris said in a few months when she was campaigning in a primary. Donald Trump had the ability to actually govern that way, and he squandered it.
He's willing to gobble Trump's cock on television, so let's give him a show. Fuck.
Wolverine finally gets his new claws.
Years of contentious virtual encounters, progressive political commentator Mehdi Hassan was finally able to get a heated face-to-face debate. Possibly could, but was forced to ultimately give concession after concession after concession about Donald Trump and the Republican Party.
I wish I didn't have to compare Donald Trump to Hitler, but when he quotes the lines from Mein Kampf, as a journalist...
Come on, Mehdi.
As a journalist, should I not point out that?
You shouldn't compare him to Hitler because he's not Hitler.
Okay, so what should I do? So I'm a journalist. Donald Trump says immigrants are poisoning our blood. I go look in history who's the only person who said that, Hitler. Should I not tell my viewers on Piers Morgan Uncensored? Should I go, can't tell them that?
No, you can you can say he shouldn't use language like that.
Can I say he's...
Oh, so you mean we would have to acknowledge that he actually said it? You fucking moron. You talking fucking potato. My God. The one guarantee with Piers Morgan is he will always be the dumbest person in the room, no matter what room he's in. And that's even if he's in the room with Donald Trump. Because as dumb as Donald Trump is, Piers Morgan is dumb enough to defend and justify any dumb shit Donald Trump says or does. So that makes him dumber.
You can't say...
He's like little Spike the dog. Yeah, Spike. Yes, Spike. Whatever you say, Spike.
He's the new Hitler.
I haven't called him the new Hitler.
Right.
I've never called him the new Hitler.
So you accept the people who
but
say
I'm allowed.
that.
But you say I'm allowed to say he's quoting Hitler.
You can, if he uses a direct sentence, which you can chart back to...
It's almost directly the same,
That's
yes.
Absolutely fair enough. But the idea that there is any comparison between Trump and Hitler...
No, of course not. Hitler is Hitler. We know that.
...is appalling.
Hitler is Hitler.
Do you agree it's appalling?
No, but I want to qualify what you're saying.
Hitler agree it's appalling.
What is appalling?
To compare him to Hitler.
To compare him to Hitler, what sense, though?
They're calling him the new Hitler.
Yes, and no, don't call him the new Hitler.
Is that appalling?
Oh my God, I'm not playing the silly game.
Give me a word.
I don't want you to put your words about.
Give me a condemnatory word.
No.
I think it's not accurate.
No. See, look at what Piers Morgan is doing once again. And he does that face every time he does. Where else do you see that? Where else do you see that behavior and that body language? Ask any body language specialist. Where do you see that? You see that in children. I just said something snarky. I've got you. Now what? Now you have to say what I want you to say. But there's no logic to it. There's no logic to it because look at what he just did. Isn't it appalling to call him the new Hitler? What I would reply is, who called him the new Hitler? People. Well, what people? Well, some people. What some people? Where? Cite me an instance. Who's saying he's the new Hitler?
To say he's the new Hitler because Hitler killed
Not
12 million
accurate.
people. Yeah, it's not true.
Not offensive.
But if you let me finish the sentence, I speak to a lot of fascism scholars.
If you could,
people like Ruth
grow
Ben-Ghiat,
the
Jason Stanley.
fuck up for 5
a lot of
seconds.
people say that there is an analogy between what Trump is doing in America now and what happened in places like Germany in the 20s and 30s.
No, there
right?
isn't.
I
Give me an
respect your
example.
opinion. I respect your opinion that you don't think it is.
But give me an example.
I'm not having that argument right now. I'm trying to make a separate point, which is if fascism scholars are saying we look at history and we make comparisons, they are scholars of fascism and they're saying, hey, hold on, the rhetoric is very similar. The way they're operating is very similar. That is it. That, first of all, free speech, they should be
Well,
allowed to say
Trump-
that.
you said
you
Trump-
used to be the free speech champion.
I am.
And then
Of
you
course
sit
I
there
am.
regulating
No, you're not.
everyone's speech.
I'm not
Say it's
regulating.
appalling.
I'm not regulating. No, I'm
You
asking
literally
you.
Say it's
just
appalling.
told me-
I asked.
Call it appalling.
Say it's
I'm not
appalling.
regulating
Call
what
it
you're
appalling.
saying.
You're
It's
telling me-
asking
You gotta
you,
say
can
it
you bring it
appalling.
in yourself to condemn people who say he's the new Hitler.
I just
I
made
don't know who those
something
people
up.
are. JD Vance called him the new Hitler, and he's his running mate. To take it up with JD Vance, call
Condemn him as well.
Call him on your show.
But you condemn anyone on the left who uses it too, right? A
Uses
comparison.
what, though?
Who?
Who says he's the new Hitler?
Specific,
Who said it?
specific words. The new
Yes.
Hitler. Yes.
Who said it?
Is he speaking like Hitler? Yes, he is.
Okay.
And that should be condemned. Do you
You
condemn,
said-
hold on. Do you condemn him speaking like Hitler?
Yes.
Does that not outrage you?
Of course.
He's like your pal.
you're
Why don't you
not.
tell him to stop it?
Of course.
Have you ever told him to stop quoting Hitler?
Yes, probably. I can't remember the last interview I did was before or after, but if I do again, I will. Yes, of course.
No,
Good.
no.
And hosting a Holocaust
Next
dinner at
time you're
Mar-a-Lago.
deep throating his cock.
Yes. Nick Fuentes, absolutely.
Have
I
you told him
condemned
to stop doing that?
I said
Next
it on
time you're
Twitter
deep
to him.
throating his cock, Piers
Don't
Morgan.
let white supremacists anywhere near you. Why are you doing that?
No, that's not condemnation. That's a question.
I think
You
it's
should condemn it.
Condemn it. It's disgusting.
It's appalling.
It's appalling.
Good.
There
We're
you
in
are.
agreement.
So, listen, again, this is what I understand people in my comments, they ask, why?
Hi, Natural Face. Sup, you beautiful bastards. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. You daily dive into the news, and we have a lot to talk about today. Big, small, weird, wild, a little bit of everything. So you just buckle up, hit that like button, and let's jump into it.
This is a news show.
New York Mayor Eric Adams was just slapped with 5 federal corruption-related charges, right? The man running America's largest city has just been indicted. And the details of these charges were laid out in the 57-page indictment that was just revealed as we were recording today's show. And it includes things like bribery, wire fraud, conspiracy, and soliciting campaign funds from foreign nationals. And on top of all
Sounds
that,
like
his
a
official
Republican.
residence got searched by investigators and his phone was once again taken. Right? And these charges, they come after a months-long investigation into Adams, and they probably don't come as a complete surprise, especially because earlier this month, federal investigators executed search warrants and seized the phones of his top staff. And then even before then, there were hints that they were closing in on Adams, or they were executing search warrants on everyone close to him, and they even seized his phone this month. I mean, there were signs as far back as November of 2023, like when the home of his chief campaign fundraiser was raided. With that, then followed by a raid on one of the companies he's alleged to have illegally received money from. And according to the feds, Adams has been doing sketchy stuff for a while now, with the indictment stating, for nearly a decade, Adams sought and accepted improper valuable benefits, such as luxury international travel, including from wealthy foreign business people, and at least one Turkish
sounds like a
government official
Republican.
seeking to gain influence over him, with Adams allegedly accepting the foreign money through so-called straw contributions, meaning that a Turkish official would send money to someone in the US who would then pass it off as their own donation to Adams. And in return, they seemingly got preferential treatment, such as when a new Turkish consulate was facing safety issues that prevented the fire marshal from approving the building, with Adams then allegedly threatening the inspector's job if the building wasn't approved. They also say that it wasn't just foreign influence either, with Adams also allegedly accepting corporate donations, which the indictment says is illegal. And there, it said that they used pretty much the same playbook. They'd give money to employees who would then pretend it was their own contribution to Adams. Then there's also the gifts that the feds claim Adams received. And according to the indictment, Adams tried to hide their value or make it seem like he paid for them. And in total, their value is over $100,000. And obviously, there's a lot more in the 57 pages, so I'm not gonna be able to get to everything, though I'll link to the document in the description. But as you can probably imagine, this has elicited many, many different reactions. I mean, even since yesterday, it was clear that charges were gonna be brought, and Adams has been defiant, saying yesterday,
I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target.
What? They always do that.
Became. If I'm charged,
They're not coming
I
for
know
me.
I'm
They're
innocent.
coming for
I will
you. I'm
fight
just
these
in the way.
injustices with every ounce of my strength in my spirit.
And when
Yeah,
asked if
because
he
I've
would
been
resign, he
bribing
answered, "I'm
officials.
stepping up, not stepping down." And today was not much different, with his attorney bashing how things went down this morning and saying federal agents appeared this morning at Gracie Mansion in an effort to create a spectacle again and take Mayor Adams's phone again. He has not been arrested and looks forward to his day in court. They sent a dozen agents to pick up a phone when we would have happily turned it in. Also, with this, I'll say I've seen some confusion
Oh,
regarding the lack of
God.
an arrest.
They
But with
are
that, I'll
acting
say that's not
Republican.
uncommon in these cases. For example, Senator Bob Menendez is allowed to be free while he awaits sentencing for almost identical charges. So we might see something similar for Adams. Though in the meantime, we have already seen a lot of fallout. Tons of high-ranking city officials have already resigned, such as the police commissioner, the city's top lawyer, and the school's chancellor, all of which led to calls for Adams to resign, such as from New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who wrote on Twitter, "I do not see how Mayor Adams can continue governing New York City. The flood of resignations and vacancies are threatening government function.
Yeah, for
Non-stop
real.
investigations will make it impossible to recruit and retain a qualified administration. For the good of the city, he should resign."
Absolutely.
With many saying that her calls for a resignation, that's actually pretty notable, because while
Actually,
she broadly
yeah,
opposes
absolutely.
Adams for being too centrist, she actually rarely talks about New York City politics. But for now, like, the big question is, what's going to happen with him? Is he going to
Absolutely
actually
right.
continue to refuse a resignation, or is Governor Kathy Hochul going to force him out of office? Which notably is something she actually has the power to do, though as of recording,
She
she
should.
hasn't commented one way or the other. But, it'll be very interesting to
She
see what
should.
happens, because yes, innocent until proven
This is too
guilty. And
much.
Adams is very adamant that these are all BS charges. But there is a reason the feds almost literally never lose a case. They almost never bring charges without just a fucking mountain of evidence. So yeah, we will see, but for Adams, it does not look good. Then, shifting gears, in online drama / business news, Dr. Disrespect wants his YouTube monetization back.
No.
Because as you might remember, he lost it back in June amid reports that
No.
he inappropriately messaged a minor over on Twitch, something that he essentially admitted to in a now deleted tweet, though he still claims there was nothing illegal happening, with him then taking a break from streaming. But he made his return a few weeks ago. And now that he's been back and consistently getting hundreds of thousands of people tuning into those streams, he tweeted a screenshot showing that he reapplied for YouTube monetization, with that showing that a decision would likely come in around a month. And all of this happening as analytics group Streams Charts found that as of mid-September, he is the second most watched YouTube gaming streamer in the US this year. Right? He's only behind
It just shows
iShow's Heat.
society
And this is
has
now some
lost
reports are
any-
saying he's
any
even eyeing a
sense of
potential return to
morality
the
or
Midnight
character.
Society studio that he co-founded. And while right now it's unclear if anything's going to come from that, between that and his application for monetization, it seems like he's really launched a full-fledged comeback. But for now, we'll have to wait to see what happens next. In the meantime,
The world we live in right now, let me tell you about the world we live in right now. He could stream himself having inappropriate relations with a minor, and we'd still be right where we are. He could film the act. Well, of course, then he'd end up going to jail for it. But while he's in jail, the hashtag free Dr. Disrespect would be trending. They'd be selling the merch. They'd be wanting him to stream from jail. It'd be this is the fucked up, stupid world we live in.
Meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts. Also, another quick piece of news on the note of backlash. Let's talk about Margot Robbie, Jacob Elordi, and Emerald Fennell, because they are the center of some good old-fashioned casting backlash right now. With earlier this week, it being announced that Margot and Jacob were cast as the leads in Emerald's adaptation of Wuthering Heights, which is a book that you may have read or read the spark notes of in high school. And with that, you had a lot of people pissed off because Jacob is playing the character Heathcliff, who the book refers to as dark-skinned and has various other indicators that the character is not white. And so with that, you have people saying things like, his experiences as a man of color influence his entire character and story as a man suffering racist abuse from his adoptive family. Fuck off, Emerald Fennell. As well as, did anyone actually read the book before deciding this? And while some have noted that this is far from the first time Wuthering Heights has been adapted into a film, and many white actors like Tom Hardy have...
They're wanting to... Okay, here's the thing. The reason they kept doing the shit like... I mean, back in the day, they would do that because you didn't want to actually show a biracial... I don't know about the deal during the time when it was done with Tom Hardy. But, before that, though, back in the day, it would have been because you're not going to show a biracial relationship on the TVs because of racism. But now, I would say half of it is just a knee-jerk reaction to cast a white boy, and the other half of it is just because that dude is popular. He's a popular name right now.
Played the role of Heathcliff. Many say they just believe...
But either way, whoever is. Yeah, exactly. Who is it? There you go. Emerald Fennel. Yeah. Whoever that is. They're being a fucking moron.
The times are different now, and there is a new.
Once again, how did this person fell upwards?
Found cultural responsibility in casting these parts. Another is saying this just shows that Hollywood is hypocritical because studios always pledge to have diverse cast, but we still end up with situations like this. So this also, as some have given grace, noting Emerald Fennell is a director who always has a big take, right? Her swings are pretty big, and we don't know what her version of this story is going to be or how she's going to change it. And so actually with that, you have the BBC noting that we don't know what is up her sleeve, but still, quote, there is no doubt that at first glance, the
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. Wuthering Heights is kind of drab. Let's get, but yeah.
Casting seems fundamentally egregiously wrong. It has that mind-boggling, what were they thinking quality, which brings to mind a crass producer in a Hollywood satire barking, Wuthering Heights is drab. Let's get Barbie and Elvis to play Kathy and Heathcliff. And
Exactly.
Of course, I'd love to know everyone's thoughts and everything we cover. For this one, I'd really love to know what my literature or film lovers out there are thinking about this. And then, this is so weird. We need to talk about how a Kentucky sheriff is accused of murdering a district judge in his chambers and no one knows why, right? I mean, this whole situation has been this total mystery, confounding and rattling this small Appalachian town of Whitesburg.
fucking
Many of
insane.
the details are still unclear. What we do know is that Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins has been accused of shooting Judge Kevin Mullins multiple times at the courthouse last Thursday. But since then, very little information has actually come out. Right? According to Kentucky State Police, the shooting happened after the two men had an argument, but the nature of that argument's unclear. We also saw local outlets reporting that Steins had allegedly walked into the judge's outer chamber where he told employees and others gathered there that he needed to talk to Mullins alone, with the two then going into the judge's inner office, closing the door, and those outside reporting that they heard shots. And after that, Steins just walked out with his hands up and surrendered to authorities who arrested him without incident.
What the
and later
fuck?
charged him with first-degree murder. But then in his first court appearance yesterday, Steins pleaded not guilty. So while the investigation's still ongoing, that's pretty much all we know right now. Right?
Yep.
Law enforcement officials have not yet publicly
That's
confirmed
corrupt
the motive,
Kentucky.
and there doesn't seem to be any obvious one. Reportedly, Steins and Mullins were colleagues who had worked together in various capacities. Like before Steins was elected as sheriff in 2018, he served as Mullins' courtroom bailiff. And then as the county's top-ranking law enforcement officer, he's been responsible for providing security at courthouses, including for judges. Hell, he even had the county circuit court clerk telling reporters they saw the two men heading to lunch together just hours before the shooting, and adding that he had worked with both of them for years and thought they were all friends. Now, all that said, notably here, in
insane.
addition to the murder charge, Steins is also the subject of a separate federal lawsuit against a former deputy named Ben Fields, who served as Mullins' bailiff after Steins. And specifically, that suit alleges that Fields forced a woman to have sex with him in Mullins' chambers in exchange for keeping her out of jail when she couldn't afford to pay fees for her ankle monitor, with a woman claiming that Fields took her to Mullins' chambers because there were no cameras in there, with then eventually Fields being fired, pleading guilty to multiple charges, and serving time in jail. And while for Mullins, he was not named in the suit, which also didn't say he was aware or alleged that he was involved in any wrongdoing, the complaint did accuse Steins of failing to
sounds like
adequately
Kentucky.
train and supervise Fields, and claiming that he knew or should have known his deputy was sexually abusing women in his charge. Also alleging that there are other women who Fields has similarly abused, with it then also
Sounds
being
like
reported that
Kentucky.
Steins gave a deposition in that case just days before the shooting. All that said, to be very clear, there is no evidence yet that Mullins' death is connected to the suit against Fields or Steins' alleged involvement. We are just currently trying to sift through the publicly available information to get any sort of possible idea, especially because at the hearing yesterday where Steins entered his not guilty plea, he didn't provide any more clues or information. So for now, we'll have to wait to see what comes from the investigation, and as far as what's next, I mean, there's another hearing set this coming Tuesday, and I mean, very notably here, under Kentucky law, Steins' case is eligible for the death penalty. Also, I will say, on the note of Kentucky law, Steins is technically still in office despite the murder charge, and
Holy
will
shit.
remain in power until he resigns or gets removed by other action. And then, screen protectors on your phone, they serve a great purpose, but putting them on yourself, I mean, it could be stressful. I mean, there's nothing more annoying as bubbles you just can't get out. That is, until now, thanks to the longtime sponsor of the show, D-Brand. Check it out for yourself. And then we need to talk about Mary Cooper, because she was on the brink of death, struggling to breathe, when doctors dramatically swooped in at the last minute to save her life. But the big thing is that they did so completely against her wishes, right? She signed a do not resuscitate order, and by ignoring it, doctors put her and her family in a painful situation that they hope to avoid. And unfortunately, her story isn't some crazy one-off. Instead, it's just one of many that highlights an ongoing crisis in the medical community, with confusion around DNRs that leaves doctors unclear on what's required of them and patients patients uncertain that their wishes are going to be respected. Because again, Cooper is just one of the many people who have tried to make their wishes on resuscitation clear. With her daughter, Sherry Uphold, telling the New York Times, "My mother's religious belief is when it is her time to go, that's God's choosing, not hers. She was very adamant about that." And so as a result, Cooper had a do not resuscitate and do not intubate order on file for decades. And then when doctors found cancer cells in her stomach last winter, she filled out new copies explicitly stating that she did not want medical staff to take measures to restart her heart if it stopped or to give her a breathing tube. And at least on the surface level, DNRs are very straightforward, where they basically say that if a person's heart stops, and in some states if their breathing stops, medical staff shouldn't perform CPR, give medications to restart the heart, or take other resuscitative steps like intubation, ventilation, or defibrillation. But that proved to be much more complicated for Cooper when she went to the hospital in February for a stomach scope to determine how serious her cancer was. Because when Uphold went to visit her mother in the recovery room, she found her panicking, gesturing that she was unable to breathe. So Uphold called for help and was escorted into a waiting room while medical those comments down below. And then let's talk about Bad Bunny and politics, because he is now just the latest artist to get involved in politics, but not with the US presidential race. Instead, we're talking about him today because he's getting involved and vocal about Puerto Rico's gubernatorial election, with him just having bought billboards in San Juan criticizing the Progressive New Party, one of the major parties in the territory, which is pro-statehood, right? And he shared photos of those billboards on X this week with a sign saying that a vote for the party, dubbed the PNP, is a vote for corruption and for the power company Luma Energy, right? And that specifically is very notable because there's a lot of frustration over Puerto Rico's power grid and frequent blackouts, and it's a major political.
I've been hearing
those
about
who
Luma.
vote for PNP do not love Puerto Rico, with Bad Bunny himself writing, "Ad paid for by Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, a Puerto Rican who does love Puerto Rico." And even though those billboards go after one party specifically, Bad Bunny has not endorsed a candidate yet in the race, but he has been very critical of both the PNP and the Popular Democratic Party in the past, with both those parties sharing power. And as far as where the race stands right now, polls have shown that the PNP's candidate is leading, but a third party
Nothing
challenger,
good
the
about
Puerto Rican
Luma.
Independence
Nothing
Party, has been
good to be
gaining
said
steam
about
with young
Luma.
voters, with NBC News also doing a report earlier this year noting that a lot of young voters in the territory are very apathetic about politics and voting, and that this has allowed newer independent parties to pop up to get their support. Also, as far as Bad Bunny's billboards, a report from Telemundo actually claimed that the PNP filed a complaint against them. Though technically the outlet didn't say that the signs in the complaint were Bad Bunny's, but the images shown were the same ones that he put up. And so as a result, you had him tweeting, "The PNP using its power to try to silence me. What is happening with democracy?" With him then also pointing to other issues, including allegations of electoral fraud. What is ones that he put? Though technically, as far as Bad Bunny's billboards, a report from Telemundo actually has allowed newer independent parties to pop up to get their support. Also, as far as Bad Bunny's billboards, a report from Telemundo actually claimed that the PNP filed a complaint against them. Though technically the outlet didn't say that the signs in the complaint were Bad Bunny's, but the images shown were the same ones that he put up. And so as a result, you had him tweet, also pointing to other issues, including allegations of electoral fraud that were just published in a report from Puerto Rico's Center for Investigative Journalism. Also, I will say, if you're unfamiliar, like, this is not Bad Bunny's first rodeo. This is not his first time speaking up. I mean, just recently, he released a song criticizing the Puerto Rican government response to her. Noted that he does have major political influence in Puerto Rico, which has also led to a lot of people wondering, how much that could translate into influence in the presidential race as well. I mean, even the Washington Post doing a piece about what an endorsement could mean from him, with him specifically pointing to how Pennsylvania is home to the third largest population of Puerto Ricans outside the island. And right now, winning Latino voters over is a big hurdle for Kamala Harris, as polls have shown likely Hispanic voters don't support her as much as they supported Biden in 2020. So with that, you had one Democratic consultant telling the outlet that Bad Bunny putting his weight behind a candidate, and it's also a great way to support the show. And then, what the actual hell is going on at OpenAI? That is what many are asking following yesterday, where several OpenAI executives announced within hours of each other that they were leaving the company. And honestly, doing so by releasing messages that felt like they were written.
There's just like nothing. There's just absolutely nothing you could say about Kamala Harris where it'd be like, but I'm afraid this might happen, or I'm afraid that might happen. There's like nothing legitimate you could really say about her, but with him, there's a fucking grocery list.
By OpenAI. And seemingly the one that garnered the most attention came from Chief Technology Officer Mira Murati, with a memo that she shared within the company and then later posted on X, reading, actually I have an idea. Can you read the sentence that I'm going to send you in a second?
Sure, go ahead and send it over.
Can you read the last text I sent you?
I can't read text aloud, but I can help clarify or expand on it. Got it.
Okay, you can turn yourself off.
I'll be right here when you're ready to chat again.
Are you still listening?
Yes, I'm still here. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay. I'll do the job. With a memo she shared within the company and then later posting on X, read it. I'm stepping away because I want to create the time and space to do my own exploration. For now, my primary focus is doing everything in my power to ensure a smooth transition, maintaining the momentum we've built. Right? And Mira has been one of the faces of the company for a while now. In fact, she was named the interim CEO during that brief ousting of CEO Sam Altman late last year. Though notably, she was also one of the hundreds of employees that threatened to quit if he wasn't reinstated. And she is widely known within the company for her hands-on work and close involvement with the development of OpenAI's core product. So her sudden departure, I mean, it's definitely going to be felt, and even more so because she's not the only one leaving. Or with the company's chief research officer, Bob McGrew, and a vice president of research, Barrett Zoff, announcing their own intentions to leave the company just hours later. With Zoff reportedly being a key researcher for OpenAI and McGrew being a project manager who helped map out strategies. And seemingly all these departures are happening as Sam Altman and others are reportedly pushing for OpenAI to become a more Starting yesterday, let's do some commentary. And we'll start with Marcellus Williams, because that is where we had the most comments. With Raziel saying, executing a man when the key witness admits to lying and admitting they were afraid the real killer would kill them as well is truly fucked. Others saying the phrase, no evidence of his innocence sounded weird. Is it presumption of innocence for the first trial and then presumption of guilt on appeal? And there, folks responding, appeals presume the first trial was correct. Technically, the person was already found guilty in a court of law. He was innocent until that court ruled. The only way to appeal is to prove that the court was wrong, and it's a really high bar. Not saying it's fair or okay, but that's the system. But then separately, there was also a lot of conversation around Chapel Roan. And here we saw a lot of different takes. Eldridge saying, for her, someone has to be on Chapel's side, telling her to take a break from the internet sometimes. People on the internet are going to decide whatever they want, going to think what they want, and they'll never know your heart. Arguing with the internet is just not good for her peace and never will be. Though Gabby is saying she's clarifying her statement because people cannot help but to put words into her mouth. I don't consider this arguing with the internet. Maria is saying, kind of feel like Chapel Roan is going to have a breakdown if she's always feeling forced to reply to stuff like this. Others saying Chapel saying an endorsement and vote aren't the same thing basically completely describes how I feel about it too, to be honest, as someone pretty far to the left. I'm going to vote for Kamala, but there are key issues for her that I take real issue with, like immigration and Gaza. I think critiquing our leaders is very important, even if there's someone I really support. If they do something horrible that I disagree with, I'm going to call that out. If I were in Chapel's place right now, I'd be saying the same thing. Yeah, personally, just with everything involving that story, well, I personally did not care what Chapel Roan was going to do. I understand why people were asking for her to clarify, because there are a number of people that are like, no, fuck Trump, and I don't like Kamala, so I'm not voting, or I'm voting for his party. And the end result of that is drastically different than I'm not a fan of either, but I'm gonna vote for Kamala. I mean, all you have to do is look back to 2016 to see the impact of complete apathy or the third-party protest vote, because you think both sides are equally bad. On some issues, yeah. On everything, no. That election and the Supreme Court justices that came with it, that is affecting the next however many decades of this country. Rights got stripped away from millions of women. And it feels like there's a new crazy thing every month. But I don't know, man. Just bringing it back to Chapel. Watching her deal with fame stresses me out, and I'm not fucking involved in any way. Like seeing her...
Lot of rock...
There is so much bad that can be blamed on all those protest vote dipshits. Congratulations on everything you fucking broke.
During Trump's surprise
country. Behaving like toddlers.
During Trump's surprise press conference at Mar-a-Lago today, the Fox News Chiron read, Trump attacks Kamala before her border visit, and that is an understatement. He went on an unhinged, deranged speech about January 6th, about Nancy Pelosi, about McDonald's, and then was confronted about Mark Robinson, which led him to essentially say, I don't know the guy. All of this happened while VP Harris was meeting with Zelensky and then visiting
I don't know the guy.
She's had a productive day, and I'd like to highlight the
He never knows the guys he knows.
With 40 days to go, we have no time to waste, so make sure you leave a like, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop some blue hearts for me, and let's jump in with this clip of Trump being asked about Ukraine.
Do you think that Ukraine should turn over some of its own land to Russia in order to end the war?
We'll see what happens.
He is asked, do you think Ukraine should turn over its own land to Russia in order to end the war? He says, we'll see what happens.
No.
Now, this should be an unequivocal no
No.
from any leader in a liberal
No.
country. The leader of France, the leader of Germany, even our ally over in Canada, they all say we will not let
No.
Ukraine cede land. But Trump is over here saying we'll see what happens. And I can guarantee you, all Putin has to do is flatter Trump one time, give one simple compliment, and Trump will give him all of the Ukrainian Ukrainian land that he wants.
He will.
And what would happen? I say this all the time, but Russia has this
absolutely will.
historical strategy of starting a war, pausing it when it serves their interests strategically, and then reigniting it down the road. You know how they invaded Crimea in 2014 and then paused it and then reignited it in 2022 with a full-scale invasion? Well, if they got this land, they would pause the war. They'd be like, yeah, we're done. And then a decade down the road, they would launch the invasion again. He's kicking the can down the road, and that's why we need to stop Vladimir Putin in his tracks right now. In this clip, Donald Trump rants about Nancy Pelosi needing to be prosecuted for January 6th.
And Nancy Pelosi has a little problem because her husband sold their Visa stock. They had a lot of Visa stock one day before Visa was announced that Visa is being sued by the Department of Justice. Think of that.
It was more like a month before.
Nancy Pelosi sold vast amounts of Visa stock one day before the big lawsuit that we all read about a few days ago.
No, it was like a month before. It
Visa.
was.
You think it was luck?
Right.
I don't think. She should be prosecuted. Nancy Pelosi should be prosecuted for that. And she should also be prosecuted for J6 because she turned down 10,000 or any number she wanted, soldiers or National Guard.
What?
And I hope you all read John Solomon and what John Solomon wrote 2 days ago.
John Solomon is a propagandist. The President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, has ultimate authority over the National Guard in 10 out of 10 situations. There is never a scenario where the Speaker of the House has more control over the National Guard or the military or anything like that.
She wouldn't have been able to turn it down.
More so than the government. It does not work like that. And Trump is lying here. He's also projecting. He's the one that
it doesn't make any
January 6th
sense.
Sat there, watched it unfold, and did not send out a video until the last minute where he eventually told them, I love you guys, but go home, which is honestly disgusting in and of itself. But Trump is the one who needs to be prosecuted not only for January 6th, but for his actions leading up to it, his pressuring of officials, his unconstitutional legal theory that John Eastman crafted up, his pressuring of Mike Pence. And now we got a new poll from Fox News. This poll is coming from Fox, and something I want to highlight is that Fox News' polling section, their polling institution, is separate from their news. So Jesse Waters has nothing to do with the polling, and their polling tends to be decently rated. So this is good stuff right here. In Georgia, Harris is up by 3 percentage points, and she is above that 51% threshold, which is she is up by 3 percentage points. I like this a lot. We're trending in the right direction. Now here is Donald Trump being asked about Mark Robinson.
Are you going to pull your endorsement of Mark Robinson?
I don't know the situation.
He doesn't know the situation. Let me know in the comment section below if you believe that. I do not believe that for a second. This has been a huge situation on the national stage, but not only nationally, but in one of the most important swing states.
So weird
that Trump
looking.
is already neck and neck with VP Harris.
Stands weird.
I mean, they
he
literally are
moves
neck and neck
weird.
in North Carolina. There's no way he doesn't know about the largest scandal yet. In fact, I'm 90% sure that Trump's advisors gave Mark Robinson the advice to just deflect and double down and sue the DOJ back, because that has always been the Trump tactic. Counter sue, distract. Here's a clip of Donald Trump sounding like a racist grandpa talking about Haitian migrants who are here legally.
Believe that? They want to get rid of some people. They want to hire. Springfield is looking, the mayor said it the other day, looking for interpreters because nobody in all of the 32,000 people that took into the town, think of this, you have a town of 50,000 people, and almost instantly you have 32,000 people, in this case from Haiti. Most of them don't speak English, so they're looking for interpreters. You have to get them out.
Trump barely speaks English himself. It looks like he's struggling to read off of this paper. What is he talking about?
It's not true.
You have to get them out. We have to save our country. You have to save these towns.
Now, the entire situation that Trump is describing is
So,
not true. These Haitian migrants have
They
assimilated
don't speak
rather
English,
well.
so we
They
have
moved
to
here
get them
through a
out to
legal
save the
federal
country.
program that the Trump administration expanded. But
That's
even
his-
if we were to grant
but he's
Trump's
not
scenario,
racist,
that some
right?
people moved
But
into
he's
a new
not
town
racist.
and they need to learn the language.
They don't
Why
speak
would the
English, so we have to
prescription for
get
that
them
ever
out.
be to deport those people in a violent way?
To save the
Never
country.
would we ever deport somebody. If people came from Europe
We're
or a
gonna
majority
deport
white
them.
country, Trump would never say that we should deport them due to
Save
their language.
country
He's only saying that because of the color of their
because they
skin.
don't speak
He's not
English.
giving any real prescriptions. See, a real leader would say something to the effect of, if you come here through legal means, like the Haitian migrants did, then you get a government-subsidized training course on English so you can assimilate and create a life here. And there's nothing wrong with wanting people to speak multiple languages in America, one of them being English, so that we can have a functioning, cohesive society. But Donald Trump's prescription being to deport them, get them out, it's not a real fix, and it's not a real problem in the first place.
They flooded the job market with low-wage migrants, but many cases migrants that also have horrible criminal records.
This dude can barely even
That's
speak.
not
Let me go back a
true.
few seconds. He's like struggling to speak here.
Low-wage
He just can't speak at all. In this next clip, Trump says that VP Harris intends to stand before the American people and con them about McDonald's. He always brings it back to McDonald's.
It doesn't make any sense.
Kamala Harris intends to stand before the American people tomorrow and lie. She's going to lie just like she did about her job at McDonald's.
I mean, I just can't believe he's a real person. This is Trump delusionally claiming he's beaten Biden by 21 points.
We had the debate. After the debate, they said, oh, this guy, we got to change him. I think we were up 21 points. But they went in there, and everyone knows they threatened the 25th Amendment.
Dude, you're not even up 21 points in Texas or Florida, which should be safe red states. This is Donald Trump saying that law enforcement is going to liberate Aurora, Colorado. He has said
We
the
were up
same thing
21
about Michigan in the
points,
past.
and then they threatened to enforce the
Title
25th
42,
Amendment.
I will send a federal law enforcement, large group of people, but a tough group of people to liberate Aurora, Colorado. The governor of Colorado is petrified of these gangs. These are Venezuelan gangs with equipment better than our military has.
What?
Going in with guns. The governor of Colorado is a coward. He's afraid to do what you have to do. And every other town that has been taken
What's he
over by
even fucking
the
talking
migrant
about?
gangs and criminal alien thugs.
Okay, again, he can barely read, but he said a few
What?
contradictory things in this statement. Number one, he said the governor of Colorado is terrified of these gangs, which implies that the governor of Colorado has come out and said something to the effect of, wow, there's a massive problem here. But no, the governor of Colorado has said the exact opposite, that Donald Trump is sowing disinformation and fear. And then
Right.
Trump says a minute later, the governor of Colorado won't do anything. So obviously he's affirming that Polis has said absolutely nothing. Also, why does he keep saying that immigrants have better weaponry than our military? I'm pretty sure the U.S. military is notorious for being like 10 years ahead in technology behind the scenes.
And it doesn't
nobody
make
knows
any-
about. So Trump obviously isn't
just-
getting those secret briefings on what's going on. But either way, if you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what
I
do,
mean,
drop
you
a like,
shouldn't
drop
even
two likes.
validate it that much. Honestly. Honestly, shouldn't even validate it that much. I mean, it just shows he can't speak without lying. And the lies he tells are dumb. They're not even smart lies. They're really dumb lies. It's fucking... Oh, Lord. I need to find a game to play.
They are a danger. They're destroying our country. They're allowing millions and millions the world. And I'm not states. You can take a look at Aurora in Colorado and see what's happening. But those are two that have been in the news. You have hundreds of little towns and cities that are being taken over by migrants. They are danger. They're destroying our country. They're allowing millions and millions of people to come into a country that shouldn't be here. People from jails and people from gangs that are all over there like Carus and Ventus. Well, the crime is down. You look at what's happening all over the world, and I'm not just talking about South America. I'm talking about prisons are being emptied all over the world. They're dumping them into the United States. Criminals are being taken off the street in cities and places all over the world are being dumped into the United States. Mental institutions are being emptied out into the United States. They are a threat to democracy. What they're doing to our country, they're poisoning our country. They're poisoning at. And you can take a look in Ohio, what's happening. You can take a look in Aurora in Colorado and see what's happening. But those are two that have been in the news of hundreds of little towns and cities that are being taken over by They are danger. That we know of, and they may or may not involve, but possibly do or end. But I don't really know, can't be sure, because in the first case in Butler, Pennsylvania, great place, and we're going back to Butler, by the way. We're gonna go back and finish our speech. The FBI has been unable to open the potentially far-based apps. And of the second case, the assassin had 6 cell phones in his car, yet the FBI has likewise been unable to penetrate their guard. Shouldn't be tough to do. They want to know, and I want to know, and the whole country, and maybe the world wants to know. Who's he calling? Who is he? Is he calling? In the old days, the FBI had the DOJ, used to capture people before anything happened in current days. That we know of, and they may or may not involve, but possibly do Iran. But I don't really know, can't be sure. Because in the first case in Butler, Pennsylvania, great place, and we're going back to Butler. By the way, we're gonna go back and finish our speech. The FBI has been unable to open up potentially far-based apps. And of the second case, the assassin had 6 cell phones in his car, yet the FBI has likewise been unable to penetrate the guard. Shouldn't be tough to do, they want to know, and I want to know, and the whole country, and maybe the world wants to know who's he calling, who is he calling? In the old days, the FBI had the DOJ, used to capture people before anything happened in current days.